A cold night, a strange knock, the wind howled across the frozen planet, a place where even machines refused to work after dark. Snow blew like white smoke, hiding everything. Inside a small tent, one man sat close to a heater, wrapped in 3 layers of clothes. His name was Eli, a human explorer from Earth. He had been on this planet called Cryo 7 for 5 days. His mission was to study the ice rocks and collect data. But tonight, it was different. Tonight, the storm was angry. Eli checked his scanner. The battery was low again. The cold here killed power faster than back on Earth. He sighed and took another sip of recycled water. The heater hissed quietly. The only sound he heard was the storm outside, until ... knock, knock. Knock. Eli froze. It was soft, but clear. 3 knocks, could be ice falling, he whispered, but it wasn't. The knocks came again, closer this time. Eli grabbed his light gun and unzipped the tent flap a few inches. What he saw made him stop breathing. A figure small and thin, shaking hard, stood in the snow. It was a girl, not human. Her skin was light blue. Her hair was silver white and frozen stiff. Her arms hugged her chest and her legs were bare. She was barefoot in a blizzard. Then she collapsed. Eli dropped his weapon and pulled her inside fast. The girl was ice cold, her body shaking like a machine gone wrong. She didn't speak. She only looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. Eyes full of fear. "I got you," Eli said, wrapping her in thermal blankets. "You're gonna be okay." The girl didn't understand. "Guys." She coughed, then pointed to the heater. Eli moved it closer. "You'll warm up soon." She didn't smile. Her eyes wandered around the tent. Then she reached out with one finger and touched the floor. Slowly, she drew something in the wet dirt. It was a circle with 3 triangles around it. Then she tapped it twice. "What is that?" Eli asked, staring at the symbol. The girl didn't answer. She curled up in the corner, still shaking. Eli checked her feet, burned and cut from the ice. She had walked a long way, maybe miles. Opened his medkit and gently wrapped them. She didn't flinch. She only stared at him, as if trying to understand his face. "Where did you come from?" he whispered. Still no answer. The wind screamed louder outside, but inside the tent was... The girl slowly relaxed. She moved closer to Eli, drawn to the heat. Her head rested against his shoulder. He didn't move. He let her stay there. She was cold. She was scared. But she was alive and very real. Eli looked again at the strange symbol she drew. Was it a warning or a message? He thought of sending a signal to base, but power was low and he needed the heater more. Suddenly, a girl sat up fast. Knock, knock. Knock. Again, but this time it came from the other side of the tent. Eli's heart stopped. He turned off the heater. Silence. He grabbed his light gun again. The girl crawled behind him, shaking even harder. She was terrified. "Who's there?" Eli shouted. No answer. He opened the tent flap slowly. ... Nothing. Just snow. But something had been there. Tracks large, deep, and sharp, disappeared into the blizzard. Eli zipped the tent shut fast. "What the hell was that?" he whispered. The girl looked at him. Then she spoke one word, her voice soft and broken. "Hunter." Eli's blood went cold. She's not what she seems. The snow was still falling when Eli woke up. His heater had died sometime in the night. The inside of the tent was cold and quiet. Too quiet. He opened his eyes slowly. The girl was awake. She was sitting cross-legged in front of him, staring, not blinking, not moving, and she was holding his plasma knife. Eli sat up fast. "Hey," he said carefully, "that's not a toy." The girl didn't answer. She tilted her head slightly, as if she didn't understand. Or maybe she did and was deciding something. Then, just as quietly, she flipped the knife in her hand like she'd done it 100 times before, and gently placed it on the ground between them. "Where did you learn to do that?" Eli whispered. The girl didn't speak. But her eyes said everything. She had used weapons before. Eli picked up the knife and clipped it back onto his belt. He turned to check the power levels, barely enough for one more heater cycle. He sighed. "I have to fix the scanner," he said aloud. "Need to know how far the storm's going." He got to work. The girl moved close. She watched his hands like a hawk. Every wire, every click, she followed it all. Then she pointed at the loose connector and made a soft sound like ZZZT. Eli raised his eyebrow. You know where this goes?" She nodded. Eli handed her the wire. With smooth fingers, she clicked it into the right port. The scanner lit up. It worked. Eli stared at her. "Okay, so you're not just some runaway." The girl sat back again and began drawing. More symbols on the ground with her finger. Strange shapes. Circles with dots. Lines with tails. One symbol looked like a planet. Another looked like DNA strands. Eli recognized one thing. Earth's his own planet's orbit ring. She drew it, then drew a line from it to a black star. Then she pointed to herself. "You're from the black star?" he asked. She shook her head. Then pointed to both of them. "We came from it." He guessed again. She shook her head slowly. Then she pointed to herself and to him. Then touched the star again, then drew a heart between them. Eli blinked. Was she trying to say they were connected? Somehow. That Earth and her people had a shared path. It didn't make sense, but something deeper was going on here. She looked so young. But her eyes were too old. Like they had seen war. She leaned against the tent wall and closed her eyes for a moment, and that's when Eli saw it. A faint glow under her collarbone. Through her skin, like a tiny living tattoo pulsing with blue light. "What's that?" he said, gently pulling the blanket down from her neck. The girl opened her eyes, looked down, and then pressed her hand over the glow, hiding it. But Eli had already seen it. That mark wasn't natural. It wasn't a wound. It was a bransom. Kind of advanced tech or identity tracker. It'd seen something similar in off-world labs before, used to label prototypes and bioweapons. The girl was engineered. Suddenly. The scanner beeped. Movement. Eli grabbed the display. Something big was on the move 2 clicks northeast. It was circling their location. The girl heard the beep and crawled. Next to him, she stared at the scanner and then without hesitation reached into her mouth and pulled out a tiny black object. It was shiny, wet, and shaped like a seed. She smashed. It betwigged her hands. Eli backed up. "Whoa, what are you doing?" The girl pressed her palms together and whispered something words in a language he didn't know. A small light floated from her hands and zipped into the scanner. Suddenly, the display shifted. The blur became clear. It wasn't just something. Bigot was a machine. 4 legs, long tail, a scanner dish on its back. A hunter unit. Eli's mouth went dry. "What are you?" The girl didn't answer. She looked at him with those ancient eyes. Then, for the first time, she spoke in English. Not clear, but enough. Escape. Broken. Hunted. No more. Eli shook his head. "You escaped from that thing." She nodded. "Why me? Why come to my tent?" She pointed to his chest. Eli looked down. His thermal suit had a patcha symbol. It matched. The heart she had drawn earlier, the realization hit him like a wave. She didn't find him by accident. She had been looking for him. But why? He didn't have time to think. Outside the tent, the snow began to shake again. Heavy steps, ice breaking. The girl grabbed his arm tightly. She looked him in the eyes. Danger, come. We fight. Or we run. The hunters are coming. Snow wasn't falling anymore. It was shaking. The ground rumbled beneath the ice like something huge was waking up underneath the planet's skin. Eli didn't move. Gay did the girl. She held his arm tightly. Eyes wide, glowing softly in the dark tent. Outside, the low thumping sound came again. Thump. ... Thump like a metal beast walking through frozen mountains. Eli turned off the scanner. Stay quiet, he whispered. The girl nodded once. Then, from far away, a strange humming sound passed over the tent. A drone shaped like a black eye drifted slowly above the camp. It moved like it was sniffing the air, searching for something. Searching for her. The girl didn't blink. She was holding her breath. So was Eli. The drone paused right above them. Buzz, buzz. Buzz, then it passed. Eli let out a slow breath. We're not safe here. He started packing fast. Tools, batteries, emergency rations. He stuffed them into his pack. The girl stood up, silent, and looked at the exit. Then, without a word, she picked up a metal rod from the gear pile. She held it like a weapon. You know how to fight, don't you? Eli asked. She gave a slow, sad nod. Eli zipped open the back of the tent and peeked outside. The snow had stopped, but the footprints were their massive clawed tracks, each step wider than Eli's whole body. They led into the white forest. But one track ended right outside the tent. Damn, he whispered. Suddenly, the girl moved fast. She dropped her rod and knelt on the ground. With her fingers, she drew a new map in the snow. A winding path through valleys and cliffs marked by 3 red dots. Then she circled a point and put an X on it. Eli studied the map. What's there? He asked. She tapped the X and said one word. Safe, shelter. She nodded. Then she erased the map with her hand fast, like she didn't want anyone else to see it. Eli zipped his suit up. All right, lead the way. The girl ran first. Eli followed, boots crunching ice. They didn't speak. They moved through the alien forest all, white trees with frozen leaves that hummed in the wind. Everything looked dead, but it was watching. Eli could feel it. Half an hour passed. Then they heard it, the scream, not a voice, more like metal tearing through stone. A roar full of pain and rage. The hunter had found their scent. The girl stopped running. She looked back. Her face had changed. She wasn't scared anymore. She was angry. She ran to a tree and pulled something out from the snow, a silver spear. Hidden under frozen bark. Eli blinked. You hid weapons here? She nodded once. Then she pulled out a second one and tossed it to him. He caught it. It was light. Too light. This isn't metal, he muttered. No, bone. She said her English was getting better. Sharper suddenly, trees behind them exploded. A giant figure charged through it tall as a house with 4 burning eyes and legs like a crab. It moved fast for its size. The hunter. Its mouth wasn't a mouth, just a screen. Showing numbers, symbols, it scanned them. It locked on her. She ran left. Eli ran right. The hunter chose her. It followed. She moved like wind, jumping, flipping, dodging snow blasts fired from the beast's back. Eli aimed his spear and threw. It hit one leg. No damage, he shouted. This thing's armor is too thick. The girl shouted back. Weak. Under. Eli looked. The belly. She ran straight toward the beast, slid under it, and stabbed upward. Crack. The beast screamed louder, angrier. It turned. But Eli was ready now. He ran behind it and grabbed a spike of ice from the ground. He drove it into one of its legs. Not to kill, just to distract. The girl jumped again, this time aiming for the belly. She stabbed. A loud spark flew out. The hunter stopped moving. Then it exploded, a flash of light and black smoke. Eli fell back, coughing. The girl landed on her feet, breathing hard. Silence returned. The forest was still again. Eli stood up. "You okay?" She nodded, but her arm, it was bleeding. He tore a piece of cloth and wrapped it quickly. "You're full of surprises," he said with a tired smile. She looked at him. "I not, girl," she said. Eli raised a brow. "Then who are you?" She pointed to herself and said a new word. "Weapon." Then she looked up at the sky. More drones were coming. Fight or freeze snow fell like ash over the silent battlefield. The hunter's wrecked body hissed as steam poured from its cracked belly. Blue lights blinked once, then went out forever. Eli stood still, spear in hand, staring at the alien girl. She wasn't breathing hard. She wasn't scared. She had just killed a hunter machine twice her size, and now she stood calm like this. "Was normal who built you?" Eli asked, voice low. The girl looked up at him. Her silver-white hair fluttered in the cold wind. "Not build," she said softly. "Born for war." He didn't know what that meant, but her glowing skin, her strange blood, her knowledge of machines, none of it was normal. She wasn't just a lost survivor. She was something else. Suddenly, a sharp beep came from Eli's belt. The scanner, he pulled it up. Multiple heat signals. 5, no-6, fast, coming from the north. "More hunters," he said. The girl nodded. "Pack follows Alpha." Eli frowned. "Alpha." She pointed at the dead machine. "First, strongest. Now, they come." Eli stared at the body. The Alpha was already hard enough to beat. "They got lucky, but 5 more? Then we run," he said. "No." She stepped forward. "No more run. They smell weakness." "Good. Let them smell mine later," Eli said. "We need to survive." The girl shook her head. Then she looked at her bleeding arm. She ripped off the cloth, bandage, and placed her hand over the wound. Eli watched in shock as her palm glowed on. The skin began to close. "What are you?" he whispered. She looked at him with a calm voice, part human, part weapon, all hunted. Eli had no words. Then she turned and walked back toward the trees. "Where are you going?" he asked. She pointed forward. "Shelter. Close." Eli followed. They moved quickly through the snow-covered valley. The cold bit into his fingers. The trees grew thinner, and sharp rocks jutted out of the ground like knives. The wind was stronger here, but something changed. The air felt warmer. "Thermal vent," he muttered. "Underground heat." The girl stopped near a wide ice wall. She placed her hand on it, and the wall melted into mist, revealing a dark tunnel. "A door," Eli said. Surprised, she nodded. "Old base, hidden." They stepped inside. Instant heat washed over them. The walls glowed faint red. Vents hummed softly under their feet. Eli let out a deep breath. "We're safe," he said, but the girl didn't relax. She walked to the center of the chamber and touched the floor. A panel opened. Inside it, a black orb, pulsing with blue light. "What is that?" Eli asked. She looked up. "Key? To what?" She hesitated. Then, slowly, she said, "To me." Before Eli could ask, the scanner beeped again. The pack had arrived. They were outside, and they knew. The tunnel entrance. Shh! As a loud thump echoed down the walls. Then another. The hunters were trying to break in. The girl took the orb and pressed it against her chest. Her body lit up with lines of energy blue. Sharp, glowing like a map of veins. She staggered for a moment, then stood taller, stronger, faster. Her voice was deeper now. Not robotic, just ... powerful. They know I activate. They want control. You mean they want to take you back? Eli asked. She nodded. Then we don't let them, he said, holding up his weapon. She looked at him. You stay safe. He shook his head. No chance. We fight together. She blinked slowly. She smiled. A soft, almost human smile. Then, the wall exploded. Flames and ice flew in every direction. The hunters came in four-legged machines with glowing red eyes. Their bodies shaped like armored insects, claws clicking, scanners humming. Eli dove behind a rock, firing his blaster. One shot hit a leg. It sparked, but the hunter kept moving. The girl stood in the open and afraid. She raised her hand, and from her palm, a wave of energy blasted forward, knocking two hunters off their feet. She ran at them, spear glowing with the same light. Moved like lightning fast, sharp, deadly dot. Eli joined her. He stabbed a hunter's eye and dodged. A tail strike. They fought side by side, two machines down. Then three, but the last one leaped onto the wall and shot out net webs of glowing string that wrapped around the girl. She fell. No, Eli shouted. The hunter aimed its weapon at her. Eli didn't think. He jumped, driving his spear through its chest. Boom! The machine exploded. When the smoke cleared, Eli was on the ground, coughing. The girl crawled to him. You okay? She asked. Could ask you the same, he smiled, bloody lip and all. The tunnel began to rumble. Too much damage, it was collapsing. We have to go. Eli shouted. She grabbed his hand. Exit there. Together, they ran deeper into the tunnel. Behind them, the base fell apart. Stone, ice, fire. But ahead of them light, they reached another doorway, which opened at her touch. Cold wind rushed in, but it was clear sky outside. Safe. For now. The secret facility, the cold wind hit Eli's face like knives. But he didn't stop running. The girl was ahead of him, leading through the narrow ice valley. Behind them, the collapsed tunnel smoked and hissed. No more hunters came, but Eli knew they weren't done. Not yet. The girl's hand glowed softly as she touched a wall of ice ahead. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ice shimmered and split open. A tall, round doorway appeared. Lights flickered on inside. The air felt warm again. She turned to Eli. Here, she said. It's old, but it still lives. Eli followed her in, the doors sealed behind them. They stood in a wide chamber. The floor was smooth, dark metal. Walls were covered with strange symbols glowing gently in gold and blue. The ceiling looked like star-tiny lights blinking. In a moving sky, Eli had seen ruins before. But this was different. This place wasn't abandoned. It was asleep. What is this place? He whispered. She walked to the center of the room and stood on a glowing circle. This is where I began, she said. Where they made me. Eli blinked. Made. She touched the circle with her hand. A pulse of light shot out across. The room mock machines rose from the floor, quiet, elegant shapes. Screens blinked to life. A soft voice echoed from somewhere above. Welcome back, Subject 7. Eli stepped back. Did that voice just say, Subject 7? The girl nodded slowly. That's me. More lights turned on. A large screen appeared on the wall. Images flashed, DNA strands, star charts, and a human face, a man in a lab coat. Dr. Renly, the girl said, touching the face. He made the plan. He believed in both kinds. Eli frowned. What plan? The screen changed again. Now it showed two forms, one human, one alien. Then a new forma, hybrid with glowing skin and bright eyes. She was the first. The girl said softly, pointing at the figure. But she failed, could not feel. The display showed the hybrid screaming, breaking machines, then dying. They tried again. 6 times, all broken. She looked at Eli. I am number 7. Eli felt a chill, even in the warm room. You were created here. As what? A weapon. The girl looked down. Not weapon. Not fully. Then she walked to another console and tapped her fingers. A new image appeared. A human in a survival suit, standing on a snowy world. Eli. His file flashed beside hers. His mission. His DNA. How do they have my data? Eli asked. The girl turned to him, eyes soft. They sent you. Here. Not just for rocks. You were part of the test. Eli backed away. Wait, are you saying they wanted us to meet? She nodded. Only human with right code, match. Eli stared at her. He remembered her first night in his tent. The way she looked at him. The way she drew Earth with a heart. It hadn't been chance. It had been planned. He was never alone on this mission. He was the final piece. You could have used me, he said, voice low. To finish your purpose. The girl stepped closer. I was meant to, but I saw more. You helped. You cared. You didn't treat me like a tool. She touched her chest. Now I feel. Now I choose. Eli was quiet. She had gone beyond her programming. She had become real. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The main screen showed a new warning. Hunter signal detected. Armor breach in 6 minutes. Eli grabbed his pack. We can't fight. Again, we barely survived last time. The girl looked up at the screen. Facility has one path left. What path? She walked to the wall and opened a panel. Inside, a pod human-sized, glowing faintly. It can carry one, deep under the ice. Hidden, Eli frowned. Just one. She nodded. You're not coming with me. She shook her head. I must stay. They find me, they find Earth. She reached into the console and pulled out a crystal shard small, clear and pulsing with light. My core, she said. All memory, all thought. Eli's chest tightened. This is suicide. No, this is choice. She pressed the crystal into his hand. Take me. Home. Suddenly the wall behind her exploded. A hunter stepped in, taller than the others. Black armor, red energy glowing from its eyes. It growled in machine speak. The girl turned, her body glowing. She looked back at Eli and smiled. Now go. Before he could speak, she slammed her hand on the pod controls. The door closed around him. He screamed her name, but the glass sealed. Through the window, he saw her charge the beast, glowing like a star. Then the pod dropped. Darkness swallowed. Everything Eli held the crystal to his chest. I'll bring you back, he whispered. I swear. What she really wanted, the pod fell for a long time. Eli sat inside, silent, gripping the glowing crystal tightly in his hands. His body shook not from the cold, but from something deeper. Guilt, fear, anger, and something else, loss. He had just left her behind. The girl, no, the being he now knew as Subject 7, had sacrificed herself to protect him. But it wasn't just about survival anymore. Not for her. Not for him. It was about choice. She had chosen him. And chosen feelings. Overprogramming. Eli stared at the crystal. Soft blue light pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. It felt alive. He held it close, and then something happened. The light grew brighter. Suddenly, Eli's vision blurred. The pod disappeared. The walls faded. His body felt weightless, and then he was standing inside her memory, the world around him was silver and dark. Walls of glass, machines humming softly. A lab, clean and cold. He saw her, younger, thinner, skin pale and eyes wide. She was floating in a tank, connected to wires and tubes. Scientists stood nearby, watching. She wasn't awake, not yet. Subject 7 shows promise. Neural activity is higher than previous units. Let's run the empathy test. The memory shifted. Now she was walking, stiff and silent, inside a white room. A dog barked in the corner, trapped in a cage. She looked at it. One scientist gave her a gun. Eliminate target. But she didn't pull the trigger. She walked to the cage and opened it. Let the dog go free. Alarms sounded. The memory jumped again. Now she was older, stronger, faster. She fought hunter drones in a training room, dodging, flipping, attacking with perfect strikes. But between every test, she sat alone. No voice, no music, just silence. Then she found a screen. A video was playing. Amanda Lee was on it, smiling, talking about Earth's forests and skies. His voice was kind. Stories were warm. She watched them again and again. Not because she was ordered to, but because she wanted to dot another shift. She stood in a chamber. A door was open. The outside world, cold, wide, real, waited. One scientist warned, greater than she's incomplete. If she escapes now, she won't last. Another replied, greater than she. Find the human. That's what she was made for. But she didn't escape because of the orders. She escaped because of the video, because of Eli's voice, because of hope. The memory changed one last time. Now it was her point of view. The night she stumbled into Eli's tent, he looked confused, cold, scared, but he opened the flap, let her in, shared his heat, wrapped her in blankets, and didn't ask for anything in return. Her thoughts echoed in the memory. He is kind. He is warm. He is safe. Not a mission, not a match. A choice. That's what she had wanted all along. Not to use him, but to know him. Suddenly, the vision faded. Eli gasped and sat up inside the pod. The crystal in his hand glowed brighter. Now he understood everything. She had never wanted power, or war, or weapons. She had wanted freedom to feel, to choose, to live. And now she had given him her memory, her voice, her entire core. He couldn't leave her behind. Not anymore. The pod landed with a hiss. The doors opened. A rescue team waited outside, humans in white suits, surprised to see him alive. One stepped forward. Eli Harris, we received your distress beacon. Are you hurt? Eli stood tall. No, but someone else is still up there. Someone important. He held up the crystal. She saved me. Now I need your help to save her. The officer frowned. That looks like tech from the hybrid program. That experiment was not an experiment, Eli said sharply. Anymore. The woman looked into his eyes and saw the truth. 3 weeks later, back on Earth, in a private lab under tight security, a new chamber was built. Inside a TUM machine designed to receive alien memory cores. A chance to bring her back. They connected the crystal. Lights blinked. Data flowed. Then a voice. Her voice. Eli. He stepped forward, heart pounding. I'm here. You saw me. He smiled, every memory. Then you know. He nodded. I will. I live again. He took a breath. We're building a body, one that's part you and part human. But you'll be free this time. No orders, no mission, just life. A pause. Then wait. The light dimmed softly, like a sigh, but she was still there, still alive. Still herself, and Eli would do whatever it took to bring her home because she had never wanted to be a weapon. She had only wanted to be real. She stayed for him. Now humanity fights for her. The chamber was quiet. Eli stood alone, watching the soft blue lights blink across the machine. The crystal, the one that carried her memories, her voice, her soul rested in a cradle of glass and wires. Weeks had passed since he returned to Earth. Weeks of tests, meetings, and debates. Some called her dangerous, some called her a miracle. But Eli didn't care what they called her to him. She was real. She was herself, and she was waiting on a giant screen behind the glass chamber. Her face appeared. Not a full body, not yet, but her voice, her thoughts. Her expressions all came through clearly now. She looked calm, but her eyes had changed. They looked more human than ever. "You are tired," she said gently. Eli nodded. "Yeah, a little." "You work too much?" "You always did." He smiled. "Somebody has to bring you back." Her voice softened. "You brought me more than back. You gave me choice. You gave me you." Eli looked at the scientists watching behind the glass. Some of them frowned. Some looked guilty. One man, a government officer, finally stepped forward. "This being," he said, "has the intelligence of a weapon, the knowledge of alien warfare, and the ability to interface with every system we have. Are you sure she can be trusted?" Eli didn't look away. "She trusted me when she had no reason to. I'm returning that trust." The man raised a brow. "Why?" Eli stepped toward the glass. "Because she didn't stay behind to destroy anything. She stayed to protect us. She saved my life, and she didn't have to." "I chose," the girl said from the screen. "Not command. Not code. Just choice." The man turned away. But others nodded. Some even clapped softly. A month later, a new body was ready. Not a weapon. Something in dash between. Built with Earth tech and alien biology. It was strong but kind. Fast but calm. And inside it, her core was placed. The lights dimmed. The room waited. And then, she opened her eyes. Soft silver glow. Calm breath. Her fingers moved gently, brushing the edge of the table. She sat up. Her eyes met Eli's, and she smiled. "You waited." Eli stepped forward, speechless. She was alive. Whole, real, but peace never lasts. 6 weeks after her return, Earth's long-range satellites picked up something. A signal. Cold. Repeating. Hunter language. They were coming from the dark stars. Beyond KRYO's -7, they had traced her energy signature. They wanted her back or destroyed. Eli stood before the United Earth Council, crystal report in hand. "They're not just coming for her," he said. "They're coming for all of us, 'cause we let her choose freedom." The council sat in silence. Then someone asked, "What do we do?" Eli looked to the door. She stepped into the room. Not afraid, not hiding. She stood beside him. "If they come," she said, "we meet them. Not as prey, not as projects." She looked around the room. "We meet them as equals." A general stood. "You know their tactics, their weapons, their weakness." She nodded. "I do." "Then you lead." And so, Earth prepared, not for war but for defense. For once, humanity wasn't alone. They had her, the one who had been called a weapon, now called a bridge, a living link between two worlds. The first enemy ship arrived 1 year later. A giant, black carrier, shaped like a claw, entered Mars orbit. Eli stood beside her on the deck of the command ship. "Ready?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "No." He blinked. "No. I am not ready," she said. "I am alive." She turned to the crew. To live means to fear. To fear means we have something to protect. She raised her hand. Blue light spread from her palm, activating defense satellites and shield. A raise. The crew cheered. The battle was short, sharp, powerful, but Earth did not fall. Because she stood with them. She led the defense. Not with rage, but with wisdom. She didn't fight to destroy. She fought to give others the same gift Eli had given her, choice. Months later, a new statue stood in the Earth's Alliance Hall. It showed a girl with glowing eyes, holding a crystal in one hand and reaching out with the other. The plaque read, "She was made to obey, but she chose to protect." She stayed behind for him, and now all of us stand for her.